Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Joyce Shanahan, and I'm the city manager for the city of Ormond Beach. And you're here tonight for the second OB Life series meeting on the Westward focus, so we're really glad you're here. You know, my heart swells with pride in Ormond Beach to see how many people come out and care so much about this community. Last time we had about 100 people in the room and 470 people viewed the video online. So that tells me how much you all care about Ormond Beach, and I am so proud about that. I can't tell you. You may be wondering why we're talking about this. We're talking about this area because there's going to be a large development called Avalon Park, Daytona, that's going to be west of here, and we have some concerns about that, and we wanted to share those with you. On behalf of the City Commission, I again thank you for coming out tonight, and Mayor Bill Partington will come out and welcome you as well. Our facilitator tonight is Michelle Bono. She has 25 years of local government experience in Florida. She is deeply committed to ensuring residents are involved in their community, and she has a real passion for Ormond Beach. She assisted us with our first 2018 OB Life series. So again, thank you so much for coming out, and Mr. Mayor, I would like to welcome you.
Thank you, Joyce. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Bill Partington, and I'd like to take a minute to welcome you all to the second OB Life Westward Focus meeting. We are joined tonight by Commissioner Selby from Zone 1. Commissioner, thank you for being here. Also, the developer of Avalon is Biat Kali, and he's been kind enough 2 occasions now to join us, and he is here in the back as well. Biat, thank you for being here. It's a little bit of a drive from Orlando, but we appreciate you joining us. With the holidays well underway, we really appreciate the time that you're taking out of your busy schedules to be here, to share your thoughts and ideas with us. We are very grateful to continue to have the guiding voices of our residents to follow us as we advocate on behalf of Ormond Beach. Just last night, I met with the Citizens for Ormond Beach, which is a great organization that's heavily involved in Ormond Beach issues. After that, I went to the Volusia League of Cities, which is a group of all the county elected officials, and we discussed things like low impact development, where the water is going to come from for new growth, how we're going to provide the services, all those kind of things that we're covering in this series. Your elected officials on a countywide basis are looking at very, very constantly. So we want to have your voices, your input guiding us, and we can follow that as we continue to advocate on your behalf. The priorities that you all set tonight will help us shape our upcoming discussions, and we value each and every opinion and idea shared with us. Thank you again for being here and working with us. We're very grateful to each and every one of you for being a part of this process and for making Ormond Beach the amazing community that it is. Thank you.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We appreciate it. How many of you were here for the first meeting? Would you raise your hand if you were here for the first meeting? All right, fantastic. I recognize some of the faces from folks who'd asked questions before. One of the things that you always wonder is, right, does local government listen? If you found a way to this facility tonight easier than the first meeting, that's because local government listened, right? We definitely got some feedback that people had a little bit harder time finding the facility. So we had hopefully better signage. We had some people out there. Hopefully everybody made it here. The other thing we're excited about was that we have this larger space. It was unavailable for the first meeting, so we're happy to have a little more space. I think they put the Christmas trees up just for us. Okay, probably not, right? Okay, but we're delighted to have you here. As Joyce said, my name is Michelle Bono. I had the opportunity to work with Ormond Beach in the 2018 OB Life series. And if you were here last time, you may have heard me say, It was named the best citizen engagement in the state of Florida from every city and county across the state by the Florida League of Cities. So how Ormond Beach and the mayor and the commission support getting your voice is something that's been recognized across the state. So I think that's a pretty impressive thing. So what are we going to do tonight? We're going to still focus on quality of life because that's the whole reason we're having this discussion. What happens in this Westward area that impacts it potentially impacts quality of life in Ormond Beach? That's what we know you folks care about. I also appreciate the city's work to be proactive, trying to get ahead of some of these issues as opposed to waiting till it's all built and we have 10,000 new homes and then we're figuring out what do we do, right? So it's nice to be in front of this issue. The other thing, and it worked really well last time, as Joyce mentioned, we had a lot of participation from people online. I think at the time we held the meeting, there were about 150, 180 people that came and watched online. Since that time, there's been several hundred more, so almost 500 people have watched all or part of the meeting online, as well as the people who came in person. And again, we thank you guys for being here in person. For those of you who took part in the OB Life series, this follows that same general format. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. On every table there is a bowl. Those, we call them fish bowls, and we will fish questions out of them to be answered later on. So if you hear anything in any of the presentations that you have questions about, just please take the paper in front of you, write on it, put it in the fish bowl. The questions that don't get answered here tonight, because usually we have more questions than we have time to answer, will be answered on the city's website. In fact, I believe the questions from the first meeting are on the website now. So if you submitted a question and you want to go look for those answers, it's ormondbeach.org/OBLife. Did I get that right, Jen? Okay. That is the website. The other thing I want to remind people is that if you are at home and watching this from home, you will be able to also submit questions to be answered as well. So that's really important. If you're at home, you could email those questions to oblife@ormondbeach.org. They will get answered as well. So we want to be sure that folks who are not here in person have just as much opportunity to take part. We are going to be doing some polling. We'll talk about that in just a moment. There will be at the end a chance for some table discussions. When we do table discussions, I'll remind you of this then, but we're going to ask you to use your sticky notes and answer your question with sticky notes, and then we'll ask you your top priority, which you'll be able to share as well. So we'll go through all that when we get there. So if you remember from the first meeting, we talked a lot about transportation, we talked about roads, we talked about economic development, and what we think would be happening with the new development. Tonight we're going to look at some additional parts of quality of life, and we're going to start by hearing more about what has happened in terms of historical overview. That's not it. We're going to start with looking at issues that relate to leisure, because leisure is an important part of what we do. So our first speaker, am I correct on leisure? Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're going to start with utilities. And so we're going to talk about some questions came up at the meeting last time about water service. And why is the city of Ormond Beach involved in this? So we have a great opportunity to learn a historical perspective about water. All right, we'll start with that. All right, and telling us about that utility service agreement is going to be Sean Finley, who is our Public Works Director for the City of Ormond Beach. Sean.
Thank you, Thank you, Michelle. I knew I was first, but when you said it was leisure services, I was starting to sweat a little bit, so hopefully I can handle utilities a little bit better. We're going to start off with some polling questions. Is that how we're starting off here?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I can handle it too if you'd like.
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. Had a little agenda of its own mess up there. All right, so everyone should have on their table a little device that looks like this. All right? I like this because, sorry, let me say it in the microphone. I like this because it is low tech. All right? And so what we're going to do is start off with these polling questions, and I'll read the question, and when you decide your answer, you can just push the number on your device that relates to the answer that you pick. You do not have to push the button that says send. When you pick a number, that's what's going to be your choice. If you, by chance, hit the wrong number, then you are going to be able to hit another number, and it will take your last response. All right? So let's give you some examples of how this works. So the first question is, what is your favorite winter holiday activity? If it is spending time with family, it is number 1. If it's eating holiday food, some of us enjoy that, it's number 2. Opening gifts is number 3, and holiday traditions is number 4. All right, I can see down here we've got 10 or 11 people that have already done it. Just pick any one. We're doing this first question just to get us used to it, and then we'll have some questions to learn more about who is in the room tonight. All right, keep putting them in if you haven't yet. All right, we're holding at that number. I think we can go. All right? And we're going to see what was the top choice. Okay. All right. This is a good group. Spending time with family was number 1. Eating holiday foods was number 3. And holiday traditions number 4. Okay, is it true nobody in the room picked opening gifts? All right. Okay. Now we're going to get to find out a little bit about who's in the room tonight. So this next question is, where do you live? Where do you reside? Number 1 is in Ormond Beach beachside within the city limits, Ormond Beach mainland but east of I-95, Ormond Beach mainland west of 95, or outside the city limits. Please grab your clickers and put those in for us so we know who's in the room tonight. All right, last chance. Anybody else want to add there? All right. Okay, this is a little more divided. At our first meeting, we had the vast majority of people lived west of 95. Today, Ormond Beachside within the city limits was the smallest. It looks like we're tied with east of 95 and west of 95. And then we've got about 20% of the folks that were here from outside the city limits. Okay, next question. How long have you had your connection to Ormond Beach? And that can be that you've lived here, you were born here, whatever is your connection to Ormond Beach. Is it 5 years or less? Push 1. 6 to 10, push 2. 11 to 15, push 3. 16 to 20, push 4. And more than 20 years, push 5. We'll see how that compares to last time. Okay, this is the same. We had this same response, which I think is phenomenal. More than 20 years is 60% of the people here tonight. So I think last time it was maybe even a little bit larger. A lot of folks who've invested a lot of time and energy and family in this community. Next biggest one is 5 years or less, followed by 6 to 10, and then 16 to 20. That middle, 11 to 15, not so much, all right? Okay, last thing, just to help us understand a little bit about the group in the room. Can you share with us what your age is? By the way, this is anonymous. We don't know who you are when you do them, right? You can be honest. Those of us who have recently had birthdays, we can be honest. All right, let's see. Okay, the number 1 is 65 to 75. Number 2 is over 75. Number 3 is 35 to 54, and then the rest of them included in there as well. So a very good, diverse group of folks tonight. So I think that'll help us with getting a lot of perspective, which is really important. All right, I will come back and introduce you. Thank you for the instruction to hear more about utilities and what this agreement means. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Now we're going to talk about some utilities here. So last month when I spoke about on one of our other technical issues, which is probably the one that had the most questions everybody had, is transportation. Not by too much smaller a margin. I think we've got have had a lot of questions, people asking us about utilities. And so we've tried to distill this into really some simple questions. So to start us out, I want to talk about some definitions, because if you've been following this, you've probably heard these expressions. And if you haven't heard them yet, you will hear them in the next 10 or so minutes as I'm talking. So the first definition I'm going to give you is service area. And this is related directly to what we're doing here, and it's for municipal utilities. Service areas may extend beyond municipal boundaries for various reasons. Typically, it's because we're the best equipped to serve that area, that there are no better options, and that it really makes the most sense. A service area is a legally described area approved by the state of Florida that indicates what entity is entitled to provide utilities to that area. You get a surveyor, they write a legal description, starting at the northwest corner of Section 5. That's the beginning of the description, and that gives where that utility is and who's entitled to serve utilities to those areas. The next thing that you've maybe seen in the paper, or when you've heard talk about this topic, is a wholesale utility provider. And people have said, what's a wholesale utility provider? What is it doing for this project, and what are they doing giving water away for cheaper than I'm getting it for myself? So a wholesale utility provider for water, they deliver water to a single customer, and that customer is responsible for distribution to the end users. For wastewater, they collect that wastewater from the entity, that single entity, and then treat it. And billing, we charge a wholesale rate which covers system operation and capital costs. We do not bill the individual connections to the individual end users. And then the third definition I'm going to go through is retail utility provider, kind of the flip side of that. You know, for water, they're the ones who deliver drinking water to the individual homes, individual end users, individual commercial properties. For wastewater, they collect the wastewater from households and businesses for proper treatment. Maintenance, they maintain the network of fire hydrants, they maintain the lift station, they maintain all those elements that are central and interior to that project. And billing, they're the ones who bill the individual customers. So they're the ones who send the meters out to your house, read the meter, and that's who your bill's coming from. Oops. We're going to talk about a couple different things here also, interlocal agreements and service areas. And that's kind of the crux of here, and I'm hopefully not too going to confuse anybody, and if I do, I'll try and slow down. Majority of the people in this room, would venture to say, are our typical user. They're the ones who live within the city of Ormond Beach, who have a meter that we read, get a bill from the city of Ormond Beach. We do have other relationships and other customers. They're a little bit atypical than the 20,000 plus people that we serve. One of those is through interlocal agreements. Those are agreements that provide backup measures and shared resources. They're there for those emergency situations. They're theirs to make sure that utility continuity goes through, and that if something happens at our plant or with a water main, that we can continue to serve you. We've got one with Daytona Beach already. That's a very important one to us. So we know that if something were to happen to us, we could rely upon the city of Daytona Beach, and they could provide water to us in the event that we are unable to provide water from our facility. We recently did an interlocal agreement with the city of Holly Hill for reclaimed water. We've been trying to expand our reclaimed water and make sure that our reclaimed water system is reliable to all of our customers. We have the opportunity now to take some of their excess reclaimed water. And we're currently in the process of beginning construction of an interconnect with Volusia County in one of their facilities up at Halifax Plantation. This will give them that redundancy in the event that something happens to their plant. These are the kind of the right things that you do to make sure that as municipalities, as utilities, we're able to help one another, we can rely upon one another, and we're able to provide continued service. The other type of thing we have are service areas that are outside of our city. That provides utilities to other areas that aren't otherwise feasibly served. North Peninsula is our perfect example of that. That is an area inside the county that we provide water only to. Timber Creek Utilities, we provide water to that. That's a wholesale agreement as well. So they have a utility there solely for Timber Creek. We provide the water that they didn't distribute to their customers. We have an agreement with Flagler County to provide water and sewer to Hunters Ridge. And then the one that we're mostly going to talk about tonight is Avalon Daytona, which is a wholesale water and wastewater agreement. So I've got a lot of the definitions out of the way here. Hopefully we can kind of smooth through from this point. What will Ormond Beach provide? We're going to provide wholesale water. That's water that we're going to provide to the city of Daytona Beach at a limited number of metered connection points at the Avalon-Daytona boundary, typically along State Road 40. Daytona Beach will, from that point, they'll maintain service and distribution network and bill the individual users. So all those pipes that are interior to Avalon, those are the property, those are going to be dedicated to the city of Daytona Beach. They're going to be ones who maintain those. They're going to have the responsibility of metering, reading the meters and billing the customers. We also provide wastewater treatment, or will provide wastewater treatment to this development. We're going to collect it from Daytona Beach in a similar manner at the boundary at a limited number of connection points. Daytona Beach will maintain the system with interior to that project. So they're going to maintain those lift stations, those pump stations. Everything that gets it to that point is the responsibility of Daytona Beach to maintain. We are not providing reclaimed water. It's not provided for in our agreement. Daytona Beach has the opportunity to provide that should they so choose. But this also gives us a little bit of a kind of a half glass full and half empty proposition. We will be able to take this water that we're processing as reclaimed, as treated wastewater, and provide it to our customers within city limits as reclaimed water. So it gives us another source for reclaimed water as well. Here's the big question I think that everyone has asked: why? Why are you doing it? The story really begins about 40 years ago, and it's a long story that kind of got to this point. Not always pleasant at times, but I think that we've gotten to the right level. So there was a water and sewer agreement that goes back to 1981. And why was that agreement needed? Well, in the early 1980s, Daytona Beach and Ormond Beach were expanding towards one another. And at that point, needed to determine who was going to serve those areas. Where was the extent of Ormond Beach? Where was going to be the extent of Daytona Beach? And so an agreement was needed to set that service area and those boundaries for expansion. Here's a lot of whereases, and there's a lot more whereases that came after this. But this is the agreement that was the start of that agreement and where that all began. That agreement started with drawing a line. And this is a line, this is that first line. And that line, everything to the north of it was Ormond Beach, everything to the south of it was Daytona Beach. And once you meet, that's kind of where you start to have some other things. But if you stay on your side of the line, we're happy with you. And if I stay on my side of the line, I'm happy, you're happy with me. That was later amended in early 1991 to take it further out west. That yellow section kind of takes it through this property, through what was at the time Consolidated Tomoka Land Corporation's property, out to the western edge of this, and then a little bit beyond. Here's a zoom in on that of where you can see Breakaway Trails entrance. There's the FPNL easement, Granada Boulevard, I-95. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a zoom in of where we're at. Like any agreement, like anything through history, things change. There's needs for modifications. Development occurred, and some of those developments that have occurred over the years that have been on the borderline, that have created some little bit of friction and some question marks, have been Aberdeen. This project is one of them. This project was eventually, in 2002, it was annexed by the city of Daytona Beach. And that resulted in some legal dispute between the cities of Daytona Beach and Ormond Beach. The result of that was a 2006 settlement agreement that provided for Ormond Beach as being the wholesale provider and Daytona Beach as being the retail provider, kind of splitting the baby on this one. So the next question is where? I threw this up here as just to kind of give you an idea of where the full extent of what our utility corporation, what our utility provides for. You can see, I don't know if I could, up here in the blue, that's Ormond by the Sea, so that's that water only. The majority of the yellow is what we serve water and sewer to. Here's Timber Creek, where we provide wholesale water to. And then down here where I'm going to zoom in, that's our Avalon, that's Avalon Daytona. And you can see that it is our wholesale water and sewer, straddles the line, and that's really the answer to where. So the next question I think that we've heard a lot is how. How is Daytona Beach, how is Ormond Beach going to serve this project? Anytime that you bring a project into a city that's currently roughly 42,000 people and you're adding a potential of 20, 25, 30,000 people, the question is how? How do you expand to that degree? And so how do we begin? And really the best place to start is through planning. We are currently in the process of updating what we call what's called our Consumptive Use Permit. That's our permit with the St. Johns River Water Management District that gives us the water that we're allowed to withdraw from the Floridan aquifer. That permit is set to expire in, I think, 2024. We knew that the importance of this project, the magnitude of this project, it was important for us to get a head start on that. So we're in the process. We've met with St. John's. We're getting ready to apply for that renewal, and we're going to include the projections from this project in that renewal to make sure that we have enough water to withdraw for day one of that opening, as well as throughout the project opening. That's our goal. The next thing that we do to prepare and to begin this process is through engineering. We've got a utilities master plan, and that governs the projects that we do. That governs how we take the future, every step of the way that we take. A big part of that utilities master plan has been our model. We've got a hydraulic model that models the entire system. We've revised that model to include Avalon Daytona Beach and its demands. And in doing that, it provides us a snapshot of how new development works and the impact on the existing system. And not just how it impacts Avalon Daytona, but also the existing portions of Ormond Beach that are served by this. We want to know how this project is going to affect Hunter's Ridge, Breakaway Trails. We also want to know how it's going to affect Ormond Lakes, how it's going to affect Chelsea Place. Those are questions that come up, and those are the questions that our engineer helps us to answer give us assurance. The big thing that we get out of it are recommendations for improvements, as well as the timing to make those improvements. To be able to address a project that's going to bring 20, 25, 30,000 people, we couldn't manage making that accommodation on day one. We need to be able to step in. So by getting the information from the developer, we're able to plug that in there and get the timing right so that we're able to address those in the timely manner. So number one, it provides them the assurance that they need that they're going to be able to provide to their customers, and also make us sure that we can continue to provide service to our people. The last step that I put in there is working together, and that's a key for any project, is to make sure that we work with Daytona Beach, we work with Avalon, we work with the Water Management District, we work with the DEP, we work with all the agencies involved in this to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we can keep this project going smoothly and address those needs as they come up. Here's another question that we hear. How is service to Avalon Daytona paid for? That settlement agreement had included in a couple different things, and it dictates, and I'm looking at it from the City of Ormond Beach perspective here. It says what Daytona Beach will pay for. They're going to pay us a rate. They're going to pay us a prevailing rate, wholesale water rate to Ormond Beach. Part of the way that we get to that point is we're in the process. We did in 2006. There was a rate study done. There was a report that was done that determined what that rate should be. We've already talked to Daytona Beach, about working on updating that to 2021, 2022 terms. I think that's an important part of this, is to know what's fair to Daytona Beach to pay and what's fair for us to expect to receive. Fees. The agreement provides for that prior to or at the time it issues building permits, Daytona Beach shall pay per unit development fees equivalent to Ormond Beach then current water impact fees to the city. So they're going to pay us the impact fees that we would receive. We're going to receive impact fees that are going to provide for the impact that this development is going to have to our system, to our plants. And then there's the last category. It's a third revenue stream. Calls for improvements, and it calls for Daytona Beach to pay for any improvements to Ormond Beach's existing water transmission facilities that are not paid for by impact fees that are necessary to serve the area. So the last question, another how is, how does this impact Ormond Beach's customers? And this is the answer that I'm going to tell you that we kind of try and keep in the back of our mind, and we try to make it at the forefront too. Proper planning and scheduling of these projects meet the needs of development and avoid impacts to our current customers. That's really the goal, I think, of everybody at the table here. And then what are the benefits that we can get from this? Because it's not all going to be, there are benefits that we can have. System redundancy. By having system redundancy, by having a plant that's expanded or an additional plant, by having additional lines that create a loop network, we provide for system redundancy, which also increases our reliability. And then we're going to have a broader distribution of costs. Standing here before you, I'm a perfect example of that. There will not need to be another me with this project, but by having more water gallons that are being billed to customers, that cost to have me as an employee of the city of Daytona, of Ormond Beach, can be spread out among more customers. And so those are some of the simple things that we can, a benefit that we can get from this. How is the project impacted if Ormond Beach does not provide utility service? And, this is, a point that I think that we need to stress. The Avalon Daytona project will move forward. The agreement that we have provides that in the event Ormond Beach is unable or unwilling to serve as a utility provider, Daytona Beach will serve as a utility provider. There is an avenue for this project to move forward. By us not serving it doesn't mean it's going to end. The last question I put up here is who? Here's your answer is me. My contact information is here. I've also got a lot of business cards. If you have any questions as this goes on, things come up that you read in the paper, please feel free to reach out to me on this or any technical subject. I'm happy to be the point of contact. I'm happy to take time to talk to you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Michelle.
I think Sean is a real wealth of information. He knows his stuff, and I do think if any of you have questions, again, this is a good time to remind you, if you put those into the fishbowl, we'll be pulling those if you have any questions. Again, we really appreciate the feedback from the first meeting, because that was a question even at the first meeting. Who's going to pay for it, and what happens if Ormond Beach doesn't provide the water? So we wanted to be sure we answered those questions for you. I didn't give Sean a proper introduction, but you all heard it from the last time. But I'll just remind you that he has been with the city since 2009. He was an engineer before being promoted to the city engineer, and that he has a lot of love for this community, and he has children that go to school here and at area universities. So he's a great resource, I think, for you in terms of Ormond Beach. If you have questions, he's very open to answering those and responding to those. So just wanted to be sure that we reminded you of that. The other quick thing that came up from the last meeting is someone said, well, why aren't we hearing from everybody else? Why aren't we hearing from all of our elected leaders and from the developer? The real issue is we want this meeting to be about your input. So we appreciate the support of the commission. In fact, the commission's the one who said we want to have these meetings. They directed that these meetings be held. Everything that comes out of this meeting is reported back to your elected officials so that they can help guide how Ormond Beach responds and how they deal with these issues. So I just want to thank the folks from Daytona and Volusia County and the developer and our elected officials who are here but giving you all the chance to really have the floor tonight. So I thought that was important. All right, so I had talked a little bit about leisure services. Before we move into a discussion about what the impacts may be in terms of leisure services, I want to ask you guys a quick question. And Sean, do you have? Oh, there we go. Sorry, Robert. What we want to ask you is a little bit about what do you like to do in terms of recreation. If you'll grab your little polling instrument in front of you again, let us know what's your favorite activity. Is it walking, biking, indoor sports, outdoor sports, visiting the beach, or visiting the natural areas and parks? Give us your feedback on what do you enjoy the most? Yeah, you only get to pick one. Isn't that sad? Because I should have said all of the above, right? We should have had that choice as well. And if you change your mind, the last one you push will be the one that shows up. Okay, visiting natural areas and parks, far and away number one, all right? Next, it looks like it is visiting the beach, understandable, and then pretty much a tie between walking, biking, and outdoor sports. Not so much for the indoor sports for our crowd here tonight. Okay, so let me introduce now our next speaker to talk a little bit about the quality of life and what that means in terms of leisure services. It's my pleasure to introduce Robert Carlin. He has served as the city's Director of Leisure Services for the City of Ormond Beach for the last 14 years. He has over 31 years of experience working in leisure services. He will be the first to tell everyone and anyone that Ormond Beach is an amazing place to live, work, and play. When he's not at work, Robert likes to spend time with his sons, fishing, hiking, and surfing. And by the way, he may be in big trouble tonight, because I need you guys to know today is his 33rd wedding anniversary, and he chose to be here. So kudos, a little hot water when he gets home tonight. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. So, that there is an advantage to going second here, as you noticed. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you. Sean, I'm sorry. No. Let's see. I wanted to start with this slide because I thought it was pretty cool slide. We did this tabletop discussion. Some of you that participated in our last OB Life meeting last month, and this question was, looking ahead 10 years, what transportation measures would contribute most to the livability for Ormond west of I-95? And I thought it was pretty cool because, as you see, this popped up in this word cloud, which means the majority of the people picked multi-use paths. Now, I thought that was cool because that's right down my alley, right? But there was also something else in here that I wanted to show, and it was because the reason I wanted to show it was because no idea goes unlooked at, right? So there was, I went the wrong way. Let's try this again. All right, personal jetpacks. I thought that was a really cool idea, right? So I figured I'd make it part of my presentation. And with that, I'm gonna blast off and go to the first slide. So as you know, we've been working on putting together a master plan for leisure services for the last year. Some of you, in fact, show me with the show of hands, how many of you have had the opportunity to participate in some of our online surveys or our statistically valid surveys, our public meetings? Yeah, it's quite a few of you. So in that process, I decided what I would do is pull some of those things out of that where we're at right now with the master plan draft that would most likely relate mostly to the West Ormond area. So when it came up to the facilities, you see walking and hiking trails, paved multi-purpose paths. You'll see this to be the multi-purpose paths and paved trails. That seems to have echoed throughout the entire community. So, and then off-beach parking, more beach access, environmental areas, nature parks, which as we did the poll earlier, you saw that was the #1 thing that you guys clicked on your clicker, so that's interesting. And then when it came up to programs, adult wellness and fitness programs, more community events out west, and nature programs. So what we do as part of our master plan study, we got together with quite a few stakeholders and then we brainstormed some ideas on how we could accomplish some of the more challenging things that you as residents had sort of let us know that this is what you'd like. So community events out west, as you know, we don't do community events out west, right? And the reason, I guess, is because the majority of the developments out west are gated communities, and they have their own recreation centers, parks, and everything else. So we just don't do a whole lot there. But one of the ideas that came out in our visioning sessions was that, hey, maybe you can partner with these HOAs and put on some outdoor concerts, outdoor movies. So I thought that was pretty neat and important to bring up, that we may have some great opportunities in the future as we look ahead to really become more a part of our West Ormond community. All right, and then some of the priorities. These are things that were identified in the draft so far that we really needed to focus on as a community, but some of these really shot home to the West Ormond area. And ironically, what does it say? Provide safe bicycle and pedestrian facilities, multi-use paths. And then upgrading existing parks, and then land for preservation, green space, and natural areas. So these are some of the some ideas that we had that we pulled out of the draft so far for West Ormond. Some indoor recreation center, maybe something that's comparable to like South Ormond, but with some sports fields. That way, those of you that have to, if you do, have to take your grandkids or your children to the park out the sports complex for practices and stuff. Maybe this would help you not have to travel as far. And then the other couple of things were identify opportunities to provide more parks and conservation areas. You see a theme going on here, and it's neat because over the last year, these themes that you hear coming out of my voice and here on the slide have been echoed over and over and over again in our research that we've done for the master plan update. And then last but not least, community events. So now what I wanted also to do, in the first OB Life meeting we had back in 2018, I got to do a cool little spill like I'm doing right now, which you guys are awesome. But I asked a question. I said, so tell me how many of you have had, and we had, I don't know, we had probably 150, 200 people in the room. I said, how many of you all have actually gone out and witnessed and experienced Central Park? And you would be shocked of how many individuals in that room that had lived in Ormond the majority of their life, 30 plus years, 20 years, and then, that had never, ever gone out and experienced Central Park. Now, I think Central Park is probably one of the most, I think it's just a jewel for Ormond Beach. It's a very unique park to go visit because it brings so much to the table. But anyway, I was just shocked. So what I wanted to do today, before I got through my presentation, is bring to the forefront some parks that you may not be aware of, that are relatively close to you all, or you may never have heard of. So the first one, and I'll get to why I brought this one in. It's not technically West 95, but it can be utilized because it's on Airport Road, so you can get to it easier than traveling all the way to the beach. Our Riverbend Nature Park. So show me as hands how many of you have actually gone to, in the last year and a half, Riverbend. I see, that's great. That's fantastic. So what I wanted to tell you about was we partnered about a year and a half ago with a group of individuals in our community. This is the greatest part about my job for Ormond Beach, is all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I can give you, I honest to God could tell you at least 5, 6, 7 incidences in my career here in Ormond Beach that I've picked up the phone and the person on the other end of the phone has an idea, right? Hey, I want to put in, and I'm going to say a couple of them, I would like to put Ormond Beach's first labyrinth in at Central Park. And they want to pay for everything. They want to do it all themselves. They got a group of people, and lo and behold, over the period of a year plus, there's a labyrinth out at Central Park. And we've been blessed to have the community we do, because people do that all the time. They call and say, hey, what can I do to be able to do this? And what we've done is created that path for them, help them get to where they want to go. Even if we don't have the budget for it, they seem to find a way to make it happen. And that's really cool, I think. And it's really nice to see it start from ground zero, them have no idea, all the way through. But anyway, with Riverbend, about a year and a half ago, I had a group of people come to me and say, hey, I want to put in a mountain bike trail. And I thought, oh, there's just no way. That's not going to happen, But they were very persistent, and they agreed we'll take care of it. It's, it won't hurt the environment at all. And if you guys decide you don't want it, then you just walk away from it, and it grows up, and you never knew it was there. And so, lo and behold, they have developed a tremendous mountain bike path at Riverbend. So if you haven't had a chance to experience it, or you have family that are into biking or that kind of thing, it's a really, really great environment. And the neat thing is it has changed the entire park. The amount of people that go out to that park, it has just changed the whole environment of that park. You see families there now picnicking. You've seen people using the park for all different reasons that you didn't see before. So it's really changed the outlook of what that park can bring to a community. Anyway, West Ormond Wetland Park, everybody know where that's at? Nope. So we got this several years ago. It is about a 28-acre park that borders Granada and Airport Road. It's a little parcel of land. Majority of it is wetland, and then it has a pretty nice sized pond. And one of the ideas in our master plan was to develop that a little more so that people can utilize it. Right now there's a sign out there that says, West Ormond Wetland Park, but hopefully we'll have more than a sign as we move down in the next 10 years. And maybe have some trails, some overlooks, some viewing areas, and some identification things to teach us about wetlands and their importance, stuff like that. So, and then the last but not least, like I told you about Central Park not being known very well, Tiger Bay State Forest. How many of you have had a chance to go out and visit Tiger Bay State Forest? See, I would have never thought. That's fantastic. So anyway, I wanted to just bring it up because it's a tremendous resource in your backyard. I mean, it's people that live east Ormond. I say in your backyard, meaning close to your home, if you live out west. East Ormond's a little further of a drive to get there. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. And before I started, I wanted to tell you why I thought it was important. As we know, we're here tonight to talk about Avalon Daytona. And you're probably trying to figure out where all this goes, but this is the Avalon Daytona development right now. And I wanted to bring to your attention that they have set aside for conservation all this land in the purple here. It's 1,888 acres of conservation that will never be disturbed. That's pretty cool. And I just thought that was important that you know that. Now let's talk about Tiger Bay State Forest. It extends from Granada all the way to I-4. It is approximately 28,000 plus acres, and it has a large variety of different amenities that you guys can go out and experience. And I'll touch on those: hiking, biking, horseback riding, semi-primitive and equestrian camping, hunting, fishing is permitted in their lakes and ponds. And then boating, and only electric motors, no motorized motors. And why are we talking about this? Well, we want to continue to monitor and advocate for Tiger Bay to maintain its ecosystem and its status as an important community recreational resource. That's why we're talking about it. And before I go to this slide, even though I already went to it, I want to just let you know we have two representatives from the Tiger Bay State Forest here with us tonight. They were very generous to come out on this evening to be able to talk to anyone that has any questions about Tiger Bay. We have Mr. King and Sam. So feel free, once the presentation's over, to reach out to them. They're in the back of the room, and they'll be more than happy to give you whatever information that you may be interested in when it comes to Tiger Bay. And with that, I wish all of you a wonderful holiday, and thank you so much for taking your time to be here tonight.
And I'm guessing he's promised his wife a really lovely weekend celebration of his anniversary. So a couple quick things is, we talk about Tiger Bay, and some of you may say, okay, why is that important? One of the commitments of Ormond Beach is that we're going to bring everything we have in terms of information to the people who live here. And so when you think about a beautiful place like that forest, the question is, well, we always worry about the impacts of development on animals and wildlife and nature and those kinds of things. And so seeing that significant preservation area that has been set aside is important. That also is a mitigating factor. Those of you who understand and follow some of this, that allows certain benefits where they build other places, maybe in wetlands, that this mitigates the impact that it has elsewhere. So it's part of a strategy, but it also benefits, we think, that forest. So we thought it was important to touch on the Tiger Bay State Forest as well. Okay, so again, our whole focus is on quality of life, and Robert, we appreciate you talking about that. We're going to jump into public safety and police and fire. So an interesting question for you all. We just thought it'd be helpful to get some feedback from you. If you will grab your clickers. Our next question involves whether you have called for public safety service, okay? So the question is, how many times have you called for police or fire assistance in the past year? If you've called both of them, put them together. 0, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, or 7 or more times, okay? Police and fire. If you'd give us that feedback, that would be helpful. All right, let's see what we learned. Okay, pretty normal response. So both chiefs, I'm sure, can talk about this. 60% of the people have not had a reason to call police and fire. I always count that as a blessing, right? The nice thing is to know is that they're there when you do need them. Number 2, we have about 30% of the people here tonight have called between 1 and 3 times. Looks like about 5% have called 4 to 6, and no one's had to call more than 7, which is, I think, a very positive thing. So we're going to start tonight talking about police services. I hope many of you know our chief. It is Robert Jesse Godfrey, and he has been the chief of the Ormond Beach Police Department for a number of years. He started with Ormond Beach as a police officer in the late 80s, and then he moved to Daytona Beach Police Department, where he served for 21 years, retiring as a lieutenant in the patrol division. I always think it's impressive also to note that Jesse has also served his country in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division, followed by service in the Army National Guard. He's also very proud of the fact that he and his wife bought their first home as a couple. It was in Ormond Beach, and in fact was west of I-95. And he and his wife have 2 children, and he enjoys bicycle riding locally and in other parts of the country. So please welcome our police chief, Jesse Godfrey.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Jesse Godfrey, and I'm your police chief, so thank you. It's an honor to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd tonight, so thank you very much for showing up tonight. Before I get started, I just want to tell you that I'm blessed to work with some of the most professional and dedicated men and women that I've ever met in my life. And those people are police officers and employees of the police department, the civilians too. And they deserve that recognition, and I just want to let you know I'm blessed to work with them, and I'm proud of them every day. Yeah, thank you. So we'll get right into it. We're governed by state laws and federal laws and city ordinances, but we also have an internal document that we guide ourselves by, and it's called our mission statement. And our mission statement of the Ormond Police Department is to enhance the quality of life in our community and protect our citizens from crime through the provision of effective, efficient, and responsive police services. Our direction as an agency will be determined in large measure through input from the community we serve. And I truly believe we do a good job of connecting with our community. We're guided by 3 main principles: courtesy, respect for the rights of others, and diligence in performance of our duties. And we're going to talk about that a little more later. So the police department, I'm proud to say, was accredited when I got there, and we're still accredited today. And accreditation is a process where we do best practices and standards, and we ensure the agency is following those, and then we get audited every 3 years by an outside agency. And it's a pretty rigorous audit. It takes a couple of days to get through. And as you know, as you can see, less than 60% of Florida law enforcement agencies are accredited. And again, I'm proud to say that I stepped in and the people before me did a great job getting this started, and I'm just going to keep it rolling. Part of being accredited is that you have mutual aid agreements with your local surrounding agencies. The Sheriff's Office, and I'd like to recognize Captain Atkins in the back room there from the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for coming tonight. The Sheriff's Office has a mutual aid agreement with 16 law enforcement agencies in Volusia County. We all work together. We all sign this agreement. We all agree to help each other out. We all agree to help each other out in times of emergencies and unusual occurrences, and is primarily and historically used for when an agency becomes overwhelmed by something that it just cannot handle. Examples would be storms, catastrophic events, and most recently a manhunt when Daytona Beach lost an officer at the hands of a felon. But this agreement is not for calls for routine service outside of our city. We're not going to go handle calls for Holly Hill If they have police officers working there, we're not going to go handle calls for Daytona Beach. If they have police officers that can handle that, this is for special circumstances. So our staffing right now, when we're up to staffing, is 71 sworn officers. And we have a breakdown of what we have here. We also have about 24 civilian employees that work in the building. And I'm sorry to turn my back on you, but I have to look at the slide. So we have 51 officers that are assigned to our 4 patrol squads, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We have 9 officers assigned to our criminal investigations division, 5 officers assigned to our traffic. Those are the guys on the motorcycles that you love to see. 3 officers assigned to our support staff, and 3 officers assigned to our outreach. I want to talk about this capital equipment fund because this was something that was approved this year by our city commission. But it's basically, it's a set aside a percentage of the property tax to purchase public safety vehicles and equipment to ensure efficient and timely response. It's already been approved this year, and it was actually brought up in OB Life 2018. And again, I'd just like to thank our city staff and our city commission for getting this approved. This is going to enhance our response times to include the fire department as well. So we have some new technology advancements that we were able to get. Some of it was through grants. Some of it was through our law enforcement trust fund, which is our forfeiture fund. And some of it was just through regular planning. But we got some license plate readers. I know Commissioner Selby was in the room when we got this started at a beachside neighborhood watch meeting, essentially. And we used our law enforcement trust fund. But basically, we're trying to form a ring around our city. And when you drive into our city, the automatic license plate readers, they look down and they just run every tag. And if you're a wanted felon, if you're a child molester, if you have problems with your driver's license, it alerts the officers that this individual that's driving this car is in this car, and these are the issues they're having. We can also input data into it if we're looking for a wanted person and we think they're in our area, we can input that into our camera system. Our camera system is linked into all the other license plate readers in the county, and it's run by the sheriff's office. It's called the Crime Information Center, and it's a great tool to keep our citizens safe, and I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to pull that off and get that done. Obviously, we have body-worn cameras, which not every agency has, but we have ours. We have a drone. We're obtaining a tactical robot. That's so we can send a robot in to a dangerous situation as opposed to sending an officer or a canine in. We can send a robot in to look around and see what's going on. We have radar feedback signs. That's for speed enforcement and speed safety and try to get you slow down on the roads. And it flashes and tells you you're going too fast. And then we also have adaptive signalization, which Mr. Finley talked about at the last meeting. I don't want to beat it up, but it's a great thing to speed up the traffic at peak times. It takes measurements and it records data and lets the traffic engineers know, hey, you need to open this green light up or keep it red longer, and it's a great thing for us. So we have a lot of community engagement. We have, coffee with a cop, shop with a cop. In fact, tomorrow at our local Walmart, you'll see at around 4 o'clock, you'll see the MRAP out there. And you'll see a bunch of police officers, and we pre-select 25 individuals from the community, and we shop with them. And that's going to be a great event. And thank you, Jarlene, for being here and covering that. One of our things that we do really well in Ormond Beach that I'm proud of is our community engagement and the way we work with our community. And we refer to it as the Ormond Beach Way. And I just want to take a second to talk about that. But it's when our officers and our employees interact with the community, we spend that 5, 10, or 15 minutes to help you solve your problem, to help you get home, to help you get on your way. And I'm really proud of the fact of that. And the other thing that I'm proud of that's, to me, I define as the Ormond Beach Way is the way that we don't work in a silo. We work together. We have partners at the fire department. We have partners on streets and public works and human resources. And we all work together as a team. And I think we do that really well. And I'll give City Manager Joyce Shanahan the credit for that. She's a great team leader. But she instills that in all of us, and I really think as citizens, you ought to know that we work very, very well together. So calls for service citywide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go big, and then I'm going to zoom in on Zone 7, which is where we're at right now. So we had about 78,000 calls for service, and this is from January to like mid-November when we pulled this data. 9,800 incident reports, 7,300 traffic citations or warnings were issued, and 4,900 lock it or lose it cards were given out. Again, this is another crime fighting strategy that was low cost, low tech, but basically our officers get out of their vehicles, they walk around neighborhoods, they drive through neighborhoods. If they see valuables in your car, they see your garage door open, they just see an opportunity for crime, they'll get out, they'll fill it out, and they'll let you know, hey, you might want to lock your car, you might want to take your valuables out of your car. We get a lot of compliments on that, and it actually gets the officers into the neighborhoods and out of their police cars. Again, community engagement and exposure. So the city has 6 patrol zones. Beachside is here, zone 1 and 2, separated by the Halifax River. We have zone 4, south of 40. Zone 5 takes up both like the trails and the south side of 40 as well. Zone 7 is where you're at right now. We're going to zoom that out in a minute. And Zone 3 is from basically the police station all the way up US 1 to our northern city limits. This is Zone 7. This is what we're talking about tonight. This area down here where the laser is pointing, it's all Daytona Beach. And we're in this area, breakaway trails and Hunter's Ridge is in here. And right now we're at the church and we're closer here to 95 and 40. Just to orient you. So again, we'll talk about the calls for service in Zone 7. And this is from January to about middle of November when we pulled this data. So we had 6 car breaks, 4 burglaries, 253 traffic stops, 68 disturbances, 665 directed patrols. A directed patrol is when a police supervisor will tell their officers, hey, we're having a problem with speeders. We're having a problem with kids partying at the clubhouse near the lake. We're having a problem with people going into people's cars, and they'll direct the officers to go in there and spend time in the area and try to find the bad guys or bad girls. Extra patrols are just when citizens call and say, I'm not feeling good about something, can you please put an extra officer in my neighborhood? I've got some things going on, and we'll do some extra patrols in there. Suspicious incidents and all others. And again, for Zone 7, for this time of year, it's 2,900 calls. So I want to talk about traffic because I really think that's going to be our biggest impact when this whole thing gets going. It's going to be traffic. And this is from 95 and 40, right over here on the far right-hand side, all the way to the red light at the Breakaway Trails entrance. And then I'm going to break these down. So I prefer to see no dots on this map at all. But you're going to see an abundance of green dots, and green dots are the low-speed, no-injury crashes, which as we go through these maps, as I break them down, you're going to see we have a majority of green dot crashes, and a lot of them are low-speed, and it's usually a distracted driver, which, as you know, yesterday's drunk driver is today's distracted driver. So you'll see somebody weaving on the road, all over the road, and going 20 miles an hour, and you're thinking, this person's drunk. You get up next to them, what are they doing? They're on their cell phone. Yes, thank you. So from 95 to Booth Road, we had 32 crashes, and just look at all the green dots. And a lot of these are not on 40, but they're at businesses or in parking lots. From Booth Road to Timber Creek, we had 9 crashes. Again, more green dots, more inattentive drivers. And from Timber Creek to Breakaway Trails, we had 6 crashes. None of the crashes listed on this were fatal. I know somebody asked one of those questions online. There were no fatal crashes. There was a bad one a couple years ago. A very sad story, but there haven't been any in a couple years. So what do we expect from this project from Daytona? Well, we think more people is going to mean more traffic-related incidents. We want to continue to implement, from the police department standpoint, we want to continue to implement an additional staffing plan. We did have 2 new officers that were authorized for this year. However, we put in for a grant, and then we were not approved the grant. We're still going to keep going after that. We're still going to continue to ask for more officers because we know there's more people coming, so we want to get more officers. We're going to implement our patrol zone remapping based on the calls for service. Part of the initiative that we did earlier this year to ask for more officers was to say there's a lot of growth coming in from Daytona. Like if you go down Williamson by the hospital and all those apartments, it's getting busier out west. We're going to need more officers for the incidents. So we've asked for those. And then we're going to continue to deliver the level of service known as the Ormond Beach Way. And I talked about that Ormond Beach Way earlier, but it was the fact that we take the extra time with our people, our citizens, whether we're at a crash or at a burglary, but we also work well with each other internally. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm happy that we're able to do that. And again, I want to end this with thanking you all for your support. I can't tell you how many times I've personally been out in the community and you've come up to me and said thank you for your support. I know our officers love to hear that. If you would, please let them know how much you appreciate them. If you want to take a picture of this screen, my name and phone number are on there. I'll be more than willing to talk to you if you have any questions. But thank you so much for having us. And again, I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
Okay, a couple quick notes for you. After we hear from the fire chief, we're going to have some questions pulled from the fish bowls on your table. So if any of these discussions tonight about utilities or leisure or police have prompted questions, please be sure you're writing them and putting them in the fish bowls. I do want to remind the people who are watching this online, if you're watching it live tonight, or you guys are sharing it with a neighbor and they watch it 2 weeks from now, you can still send in questions. We would like to receive those. If you're emailing those questions from home, you're sending them to oblife@ormondbeach.org. So we would encourage those of you watching at home, you can do that now, you can do it later. But sometimes if you're like me, you leave the meeting and say, I wished I'd asked this one question. So this is an opportunity. You may still send those in and we'll respond to those and post them online as well. Another quick thing I want to mention, in your packet, your agenda packet that you have tonight, the very last page is a meeting evaluation. As I mentioned before, we take this feedback very seriously from you all. That is, again, how we improved the signage for tonight's meeting, because it was definitely mentioned on these evaluations. So if you're like me, sometimes I forget to go do it at the end, so if you want to pull that out separately, you can just leave these on your table and we will pick them up at the end. So it'd be helpful to have your evaluation as well. Okay, thank you, Chief, for your discussion about everything related to police. We're now going to hear a little bit about public safety and quality of life as it relates to the fire department. Chief Richard Sievers began his fire service career with the city of Lauderdale in 1979, working in every rank through assistant fire chief. He retired from Lauderdale in 1999 and joined the City of Lauderdale Lakes Fire Rescue Department as its fire chief, followed by service with the Broward Sheriff's Office Fire Rescue, starting in April 2004. Chief Sievers then led fire services for a number of communities through that position, and then we are delighted to have had him join us here in Ormond Beach. Chief Sievers has a bachelor's degree in business administration from Northwood University, and he's also designated as a fire chief officer from the Center for Public Safety Excellence. Now, in his spare time, Chief Sievers says he likes to spend time with his family, and he also likes to take a relaxing run on the beach. I was giving him a hard time because when I run, I don't know that I always find it relaxing. He says it's a relaxing stress relief to go run on the beach. So please welcome our fire chief, Chief Sievers.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. It is relaxing. It's sometimes I do my best thinking running on the beach, coming up ideas. Thank you for all being here. I was here on the first OB Life. I think I was here for about 2 weeks at that point in time 3 years ago. So I learned a lot about Ormond Beach, and I learned a lot about that process at that time. So it was a great experience. But now we're really focusing on the Western community, and that's really what this program is going to be about today. I'd like to start with our motto. And our motto is courage, commitment, and compassion. And I can tell you that our people strive every single day to live up to this motto on every call and every incident. So we have this even on the side of our trucks. We have it in our training room. And it's something, and again, it's probably part of the OB way. I would like to focus a little bit broader right now, just give you like a little overview of where we are and how many stations we have, and then we're going to go ahead and bring it closer to the Western community. Right here, obviously, this is Ormond Beach, so you see those stations here in red are Ormond Beach stations. This is Daytona Beach, and these stations in blue are Daytona Beach. And then when you see the black ones that are scattered throughout the presentation there, that's Volusia County. Let's get a little bit closer look. What is west of Interstate 95? In Ormond Beach, that's our station there. It's right off Airport Road, just west of Timber Creek. Again, this is Volusia County Fire Station. It's actually just north of Granada It's actually in Flagler County, but it's staffed by Volusia County. And then, again, the western station west of 95 in Daytona is Station 7. It's off LPGA, just west of 95. So we're really going to kind of focus on those three facilities that are there at that time. Oops, going to catch up. Let me give you just a little bit of an overview again of Ormond Beach. We're going to start from the east to the west. Oops, that works right there. You can see on our beach side, we have a station right on Atlantic Avenue. That's south of Granada. And then we have one right on Nova here. That's Nova Road. And again, south of Granada. We have another one on US 1, right on Wilmette. And then again, we're focusing on the western community here. Our station 94 is right there on, like I said, Airport Road. Now, this is how we staff our 4 fire stations. So each station is staffed with 3 personnel, 3 firefighters on 1 suppression unit. Now, most of the employees are paramedics, at least emergency medical technician, but most are paramedics. And then we work a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service. It's always staffed as we move along. Let's talk about some of the incidents that we've had, and we're looking at the time frame of the year 2020. So when we talk about fire and hazardous condition, we had 568. Now those are anything that deals with fire. Could have been a structure fire, could have been a vehicle fire, brush fire, 568 of those. This is citywide. Rescue medical, as you can imagine, probably that's our biggest call volume. We had 4,119 medical calls. Service calls, they're anything from like fire alarms or assist, if we're maybe assisting a patient up. That was 2,497. We got a lot of service calls for a total call volume of 7,184 calls for 2020. Now, I want to kind of focus again on Station 94. As I told you, that's our western station right off Airport Road. So our average call volume there, and I looked at the data for the last 5 years, was about 1,200 calls a year for service. So that's actually one of our lowest of the 4 stations. So we can handle some of the increased volume that's going to happen at this area here. Again, that's the first station that serves the western community. Again, less population, less call volume. That's kind of how it works. Now we also have agreements. As we move forward, we have mutual aid agreements. Now, every agency in Volusia County, every fire agency is part of this agreement. Now, we're a little bit different than the police because we do run out of our jurisdiction. We couldn't, as you can imagine, then the dispatch, and we're dispatched by Volusia County Sheriff's Office, they're going to send the closest municipal unit in Ormond Beach to that non-emergency call. Because again, we don't want to put any more strain on our mutual aid agreements. But it's pretty balanced, and we're always looking at those agreements, and we're always looking at that balance to make sure that it's adequate. Now, I kind of wanted to look at this. I call this the 4 corners, really. And when you look at this, because it's really a lot going on out here. It's not like we're in the middle of Ormond Beach, the center. You know, here we are, Station 94, like I talked about. Again, this is Ormond Beach here. Now we have Flagler County here in the white section. And all this gray area here and also in here, these little gray areas are Volusia County. And now we have Daytona Beach with the proposed Avalon Daytona here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on. This is a proposed fire station. It's not here yet, but they're proposing to build one in Avalon. Now, I have some topics that I'd like to talk about. Again, population growth in the west area, overlapping incidents, that's important to us, and then proposed Timber Creek extension. So let's take the first one. So for about every 1,000 population, it generates about 167 calls for service. So that's the average that we use. So it's more like I said, the more populated you get, then the more calls that we can expect as it goes. Now, over the last 5 years, I'd like to talk about, overlapping incidents. When an overlapping incident, again, it's when we have 2 or more simultaneously happening within the city. This extension would allow this unit to get there a lot quicker. Again, I talked about this as proposed here. Well, let's look at an overlay of where Avalon Daytona would be. So as you can see, you can see that it would go directly into there. So again, it makes the response time a little bit quicker. And let's look at the distance on the next map here. Oops, just want to catch up. On our distances, as you can see, the current station here that I just talked about, oops, Station 7 on LPGA, west of 95, currently it's about 5.6 miles for them to get to the entrance of Avalon. Because now, right now, without the Timber Creek extension, they would have to go LPGA 95 to 40. With the extension, it would bring it down to 1.8 miles for that response. So that's definitely helpful. When you look at where we are, again, our station 94 on Airport Road is 3.4 miles away from that entrance, and then the county station is 6.3 miles away. So again, we're always looking at the closest unit. Now, I think something that's interesting, though, is, again, when this station is built, it actually would be a benefit to Ormond Beach then, and we'd have another fire station, another unit in our western community. Now, I know that, that we talked about the Avalon Daytona fire station that they were proposing to build. I know that Daytona has been working with the developer. They're talking about the developer's agreement. They have to put that together. And I know that they were talking about 3 phases. So the first phase is about 400 homes is what they're telling me. About 400 homes that would be built. Then they're going to do a second phase, another 400 homes. At the end of 800 homes, then they were proposing to build the new fire station. Now, they were hoping to have that completed at the end of the last phase. So we're talking about 1,200 homes. So it's not a huge impact until the new fire station gets there, if that's how it all plans out. Then it's up to, obviously, Daytona Beach has to staff the fire station, and really, all the things at the new fire station are controlled by Daytona Beach. But again, we've been having a good relationship and a good conversation. They've been keeping me in the loop on fire rescue of that progress. And so I'm sure we'll be part of that. I do want to talk a little bit about some of our new apparatus and equipment. And again, these are some new deliveries that we just recently gotten, fully equipped. So we're always looking at that. This is state-of-the-art equipment, and I really want to thank, again, the City Commission. As Chief Godfrey talked about, that public safety fund, again, that's for large purchases, for fire and police vehicles and equipment. That was just wonderful that was actually passed this year. So we're planning for the future. And again, I really want to thank the Commission for that, and the community for future planning of our public safety needs. It's going to take us a long way. And I don't want to leave until I talk about our 9/11 walk. We did a 9/11 memorial walk this year over the Granada Bridge. And I really want to thank the public that came out. As you know, that was the 20th year anniversary of that terrible attack on our country. So I really want to thank the public that came out and supported us, or went on the website and also gave donations to Tunnels to Tower Foundation. That was wonderful. Because we always talk about, too, our OB way, and that's part of it, the community, with us together on these projects. But the OB way for me, too, is I always think about it's the level of service that we provide to the community, but I also think it's what is expected from this community, too, that level of service, and that's what we try to provide every single day. And again, as Chief Godfrey said, we really, truly want to thank the community for that support that you always give to public safety. Thank you very much. If there's anything that I can answer after this presentation, more than happy, we'll be in the back. Thank you.
All right, so we have shared a lot of information. Again, I hope you found that informative. I think it's really helpful to understand the differences between police and fire and how they respond in new areas, as we've heard tonight. So I would now like to ask Stephen Sibley. He is the Assistant Director for Leisure Services. He's going to be our person going to each table. And do you have your microphone? Let's get him.
I do. I do.
So he's going to go to each table, pull a question out, and again, if your question is not asked, and Stephen, you know to dig down so that they're not all at the top, right? All
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. What's our first question?
All right. Top 3 priorities could be accomplished by making strategic purchases of land east of 95. I'm not sure if that's a question, but a statement.
just a comment that purchasing land east of 95. Okay?
Okay. Moving on. All right. Let's see what we got. All right. When will the first responders get salary increases to be competitive with other agencies?
All right, I got two chiefs here. Who gets to answer that one? You see them both jump up and run to the microphone. I think the city manager's got this one. Okay.
I'll leave them out of that. I'm Joyce Shanahan, your city manager. We have collective bargaining units with our police officers, firefighters, and general employees, and we are in the process of kicking off the agreement negotiations for 2021 and beyond. The City Commission will have a private workshop starting January 4th to give staff some direction in the negotiations, but we are trying our best to keep morale up and continue to respect and honor those that protect and serve our community. And I'm sure we'll be able to come to an agreement that is acceptable to everyone.
All
Okay.
right, thank you. Next.
Wastewater treatment. Understand Daytona handles the infrastructure. Who processes the wastewater? Ormond Beach or Daytona Beach?
Okay, Stephen.
The wastewater would be processed by the city of Ormond Beach. So we would, Daytona Beach would collect it through a series of laterals to manholes to lift stations. It would then get pumped to our system at Granada Boulevard, and we would treat it from there.
Sean, stay there. Says, where is the initial funding coming from for the increase in water lines, labor, cost, equipment? Be specific.
We are not going to be specific tonight. We're going to just kind of, I'll do my best here, and we'll try and follow up with some a little bit more specifics. But we're looking at that right now. There's going to be a combination of bond funding of some different sources. So we are looking to figure into all of those sources of how we need to fund it currently, and hopefully we'll have that addressed soon.
Okay.
Just to kind of go back to our slide that we had, there is part of our agreement with Daytona Beach. There will be impact fees that will be paid from those connections at Daytona Beach. There's also funds that from Daytona Beach that will be paid.
Stay
Back
there.
to me.
Given the projected water and sewer requirements, does Ormond Beach water purification and sewer have adequate capacity, or will Ormond Beach users pay for capital improvements?
The goal here is to not put that burden on our residents. We have capacity to address some of these immediate needs, but again, that agreement that is with Daytona Beach is that those impact fees that go towards things like treatment facilities, transmission lines, will be paid through those impact fees as well as through some additional funding from the project.
Okay, you may want to stay there.
Okay.
What is the timeline for building out of Avalon Daytona? 5 or 10 years?
The projection that we got from the developer is there is, I think the initial phase of it is 3,250 homes that has been submitted to Daytona Beach. They're looking between 8 and 10 years is the projection that they've provided. So about 400 homes a year is what's been shared with us at this time.
Okay, stay there. Okay, so number of gallons with the CUP, Consumptive Use Permit, rate study, when is that going to happen?
The Consumptive Use Permit is underway right now. We've contacted with one of our consultants who is working on that now. They're preparing to submit that to St. Johns River Water Management District this coming January, I think is what we're projecting to, so we should be ready to go. I've had discussions with Daytona Beach. They've given me some information on some things. We're looking at getting that rate study initiated, hopefully very soon here. We want to be prepared for when that first house gets, is ready to open up in Daytona Beach, that we're ready on all fronts, and that includes the rate study and beyond.
do you have the number of gallons for the CUP?
I do not off the top of my head. There, but we will find that and we'll put that in our response to, you already know it?
Big said he's going to call you.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, Big.
Okay, and last one, has permitting started? I assume it's Avalon Daytona permitting.
Permitting has, I believe permitting has started through the city of Daytona Beach, and so, yes, I believe the answer is yes.
All right, Stefan, did we get one from every table?
We did.
Okay. All right, so we're going to turn this over to you all now for some table discussions. Let me explain a little bit about how this will work.
Michelle, really quickly.
Yes.
Will the owner of a white Avalon, a Toyota Avalon, come to the back of the room for me really quickly?
That is so appropriate. A Toyota Avalon. Okay, right? You just couldn't call that one out. Okay. Okay, now we will move ahead. Oh, and somebody else may have to forward this. It's not moving forward for me. So what we're going to do, and you guys have in your handouts a little bit of discussion about what are the discussion guidelines. So you'll see that in your agenda packet. What we're going to do is turn this over to you all for a discussion at your table. Again, general guidelines, we would love for you to be sure that you're expecting and respecting different perspective. Explain your assumptions, ask questions, speak to be heard, be willing to listen, and share the airtime. So the way that we would like, thank you, the way we would like for this discussion to work is we're asking you this question. So again, the concept all night long has been, what about quality of life for Ormond Beach? What does this growth outside of the city limits mean for those of us who live in Ormond Beach? So our question to you is, looking ahead 10 years, what quality of life related measures would contribute the most to livability from Ormond Beach, for Ormond Beach west of I-95? So the question is it leisure? Is it utility issues? Is it hiking? Is it any of those things that have been discussed? Is it police? Is it fire? Is it something else? And what we'd like you to do at your table is have that discussion. We always like to give you an idea of who goes first, and so we would suggest find the person at your table whose birth date is closest to today and ask them to speak first, and to please go around the table and let each person speak and then go back and have each person speak again. The other thing that we will do is that when you talk about what your answer is, when you talk about what's most important to me in terms of livability and quality of life, please write them down on pieces of paper. You can use the sticky paper and leave it on the white paper on your table. If you'd prefer, you can write it on the white paper in the middle, or you can use the sticky notes. We gather those up, and we will use them with all the responses we receive to be able to share that information of what did we hear was most important. We'll come back as a group tonight and hear your individual responses, but this will at least give us some basis. So we're going to give you about 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes in your group to have this discussion on, based upon what you've heard tonight and the other previous meeting. The question of, looking ahead 10 years, what quality of life related measures would contribute the most to livability for Ormond Beach west of I-95? All right? And we'll be wandering around. If you have questions, feel free to ask us, but this is your group discussion and our chance to hear what's most important to you. All right? Go to it. And let me just add one more quick note. I was just informed on that permit, it has been applied for, not yet approved. Okay? Again, that's done by Daytona Beach, not Ormond Beach, obviously, but it has been applied for. Just wanted to correct that. Just a heads up, we're going to give you about another minute or two, so if there's anyone at your table that hasn't spoken, please be sure you hear from them. Okay, if I can get everybody's attention, we're going to be wrapping up. Okay, so now that you've had a chance at your table to identify a few things that you think are critically important in terms of livability in Ormond Beach, what we want to do is ask each person here if they would share the one thing that they thought was most important. It does not have to be what you came up with. If somebody at your table suggested something and you really agree with their point of view, we'd like you to type that word in. Now, how do you do this? This is a very simple thing. Technology's fascinating, right? On your agenda, there is what's called a QR code. For those of you who wonder how does this work, you just need to open your camera on your cell phone, if you have a cell phone with you, and you can just have the camera focus on the QR code. You can get it off the screen as we had it, but everybody has it on their agenda. So just put your cell phone. If you have any trouble with that, please raise your hand, and we have folks who will be happy to help you. And what we're asking you to do is to type in that word that you thought was most important, and it's going to reflect in this word cloud up here. So we've had one person so far type in parks. We would love to see what the rest of you think in terms of what do you think is most important. All right, we're getting police expansion. Please add more. Now on this, you can add more than one thing, but we're really looking for your most important, if you would. This is the quality of life measure that you think would contribute the most to Ormond Beach. Okay, I like this person. They want us to put a lock on Granada on Fridays. Okay? Hey, that's a pretty creative one. Oh, thank you. I thought you were locking down the street. Okay, that was gridlock. Thank you. Gridlock on Granada. Doing repairs on Pineland. Hand Avenue extension. Police expansion, road improvements, and parks. Again, take your time. Please add those to the list if you have one that you'd like to share. You can use the same ones you've seen, or if you have one that's different, we'd love to see what you have to share. And we're going to give it a minute or two because sometimes making this link work. When you take the picture, it should bring up a link and you can click on that link. Does anyone need any assistance? Raise your hand if you do. We'll be happy to assist. I think the table back here is doing great. They've got a young person there who was showing everyone how to do it. Thank you. Did it work for you? Good. Okay, just to reiterate the ones we have up here. Addressing the Friday gridlock on Granada, police expansion, road improvements, wildland urban interface, more leisure areas, improve the traffic on Timber, the Hand Avenue extension, new roads and existing roads, traffic again is an issue that we've heard many times, parks, the Pineland Road repair, and more leisure areas. Oh, and water, the issue of the water service. And again, just a reminder, the folks who are watching this online, you'll have the opportunity to also submit your words so that we'll have a second word cloud from people sharing online. All right, is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to put in their comments yet? Raise your hand because we want to give you enough time. Okay, folks, so here is where we are in terms of our process for this evening. Probably the most important question is, what are the next steps, right? Where do we go from here? All of the feedback you have, whoops, there we go, thank you. All of the feedback that you have been provided is going to be provided not only to the Ormond Beach City Commission, but it's also going to be provided to Daytona Beach, to Volusia County, and to the developer. So the information and the priorities that we hear from you are going to be shared with all of those folks. So what do we need your assistance with? Well, the first thing is we would love for you to share the information you've learned tonight with other people. Tell your friends about it. This has been recorded. They can watch it online. Share the information from the first session as well. Encourage your neighbors to provide feedback. Again, we'll share all that information, and I would tell you it's also important for you to advocate with Daytona Beach, Volusia County, and the developer for things that you find important. And then our goal is to keep you well informed. So we are going to answer all the questions you put in the fishbowl tonight. The answers to those will be posted by the end of this month, by December 31st. So those are available online in addition to responses from the questions from the first night. The other thing I would tell you is all the staff that you heard from tonight are here in the room. They are happy to talk with you this evening before you leave. So I want to thank you all again. It is such a wonderful season for celebration in our community. You all may know there's lots of events happening this weekend in Ormond Beach. Please visit the website. All that information is there. Our wish to you all is that you have a beautiful and happy holiday season, and thank you for coming to this event tonight. We appreciate you. And don't forget your evaluation, please. Fill out your evaluation, just leave it on the table.